This line right here is the #1 most common mistake that people make in their bio.
If you are tired of posting on Instagram and hearing crickets, this is the video you've been waiting for, because I sat down with Brock Johnson, the guy who grew from 0 to over 700,000 followers, helping people like me grow on Instagram. And what he shared in this interview is seriously eye-opening. Like, coming up consistently with content is one of the biggest struggles, and he did not gatekeep.
On the other hand, all of my best posts that go viral and that are the most creative and that have comments saying, "Oh my gosh, this is my favorite reel ever," those were inspired by.
And he told us how often we should post, if we should have a personal or business account, literally everything you need to know to grow in this video. And his students aren't just seeing growth. Many are averaging 15,000 new followers and turning their content into income. In this interview, he breaks down the exact Instagram marketing strategy that's working right now, especially for small business owners who feel like they're stuck or constantly battling this ever-changing algorithm. Guys, ready to get into it? Let's go. Hey, Brock, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course, yeah, happy to be here.
Okay, so first, can you kind of brag on yourself a little bit, kind of tell us your accolades and how you have grown so much on Instagram? And how you
Sure, yeah. Sure, yeah. So basically, it's my job to help people grow their brand or business on Instagram. That's like the short one-sentence elevator pitch. I'm at 700 something thousand followers on Instagram. I started really taking off in 2020. I'd been working as an Instagram marketing strategist and an Instagram expert since 2018, but really 2020 is when my Instagram started to take off, started to have a lot of really cool opportunities, speak on stages all around the world about Instagram marketing, work with some Fortune 500 companies, big international sports brands, things like that. And then earlier this year in 2025, I got to interview the head of Instagram, Adam Mosseri. And so that was a really cool career moment and opportunity, getting to kind of represent like all of us creators and pick the head honcho's brain and kind of, hear directly from him what we should and shouldn't be doing, the truths and the myths about the algorithm. And yes, that's who I am and that's what I do.
Oh, this is so awesome. Okay. So as a lot of people watching this are people who are wanting to start Instagram or they started and they just haven't seen the growth. And so I wanted you to like walk us through, if everyone wants to have a successful Instagram account. So the question is, what would be step number one? Like, I hear a lot, should I have a business account? Should I have a personal account? Like, let's start from the beginning. Let's take it through like step by step. So what's the first thing we should do in order to get an Instagram that's actually growing?
Totally. And I think it's important to also understand like the why, or, why does Instagram matter? Why do we care about Instagram? Instagram doesn't pay as well as YouTube. I want to say that flat out. Like, YouTube's pay-per-view is great. I'm pretty sure last month, I was actually just looking at the stats this morning. Last month on Instagram, I got almost 17 million views total for the month. And my payout was less than $300. So it's low. Like, if you were to get 17 million views on your YouTube channel, you'd be making a few thousand, if not, 5 figures a month from YouTube. So YouTube's pay-per-view is better. But where I think Instagram really stands out is in the customer value. And there was a study done by Carrot Financial a few years ago where they analyzed how much are people actually making, brands and business owners, how much are they actually making per follower, or to use YouTube's terms, per subscriber on these platforms. And they found that Instagram was the highest compared to YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, all these other platforms. The average value of an Instagram follower was significantly higher than any other platform. So that's the why. But the step one in order to grow on Instagram is actually, before we worry about setting up our profile or picking creator account or business account or professional, whatever, is we need to know exactly what our goal market is, or our target demographic, or to say it in one word, our niche. We have to pick our niche before we get started. And I define niche as 2 parts. It's not just the who, like the demographics and what they're into, those interests and the topics, the things that make the people in the audience who they are. But of course, the second part is, what are you going to be talking to them about? Like, what is the specific thing? And so when people get started on Instagram and they don't have a clear who, they're posting about a little bit of everything. They're attracting a few followers who are interested in their lifestyle, and a few followers who are interested in their workout routine, and a few followers who are interested in what they have to sell. but they don't build like a loyal, engaged audience that's all interested in one topic. And so before we even get started on Instagram, we have to have a crystal clear definition of what our niche is. And I believe that the more you niche down, the better. So the more specific you can get, the more targeted, the more you can talk to a subset of a subset of a subset of the population, the more you're going to be able to grow and see engagement and see results.
Now, do you recommend that someone has a product already in place before they start trying to grow on Instagram, or do you think they should build a following first?
I think that there can be success either way. I'm not one of these people who thinks that you have to build the product and then build the audience, or you have to build the audience and then create the product for them. I think that there are pros to both situations. I think if you start out with a product either already created or at least in mind, well, then you're going to have a more clear vision from day one of the audience you're trying to build and the things you want to post. But on the other hand, if you don't have that and you just have the topic you want to talk about and the audience you want to attract, but you don't know exactly what you're going to sell yet, well, then the cool thing is you can allow your audience to help dictate the product that you create. You can allow their problems and their challenges to help you figure out along the way how to best solve those needs. And so I think that there's pros and cons to both approaches.
Yeah. What's your thoughts about like looking at your competition? Because I'm really big about like finding someone who's doing what you want to do and then kind of mirroring that or using it as for inspiration. But what would you say to someone like if no one's doing what they want to do on Instagram? Should they continue to go doing that strategy even though they don't see anyone else doing it? Or what's your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think that that can be a real gold mine. If there's something that you want to do or an approach you want to take or a kind of content that you want to post and no one is quite doing it like that right now, that's exactly where I think you should end up regardless. Because I think that getting inspiration from others is huge, especially early on. You know, when I look back at my early days of even just like recording videos and creating content, it was clear that even looking as specific as like my speaking patterns and my inflection and like the way I said my sentences, those were clear imitations of the people I looked up to. And so I think that when you're getting started, it's helpful to have creators and business owners and brands that you look up to and that inspire you. But I think it's also important to recognize where the gaps in the market are and what they're not doing that you could bring to the stage and kind of uniquely do that, you know, that make you special, that make you unique. I think you'll find those things along the way. You don't have to have it like defined and written out on paper before you ever make your first post. You can experiment and figure that out as you go. So it's kind of like there's a middle ground that we have to find where we're not just copying and imitating and getting inspired by every single thing that we see. We're able to be unique and original. But also, you know, we still got to get inspiration from somewhere. Every great artist, every great creator and brand gets ideas and inspiration from everyone else. And so I think that that's an important fine line to walk.
Yeah. So, and I think the biggest problem or struggle or challenge is get like content. What can I talk about? So what do you recommend to even your students about like, all right, so when it comes to content, this is what you should do.
Yeah. It all starts with that niche, right? We know exactly who that target demographic is and the topic that we want to talk to them about. There used to be this narrative, this idea, strategy, whatever you want to call it, on Instagram of content pillars. And originally, content pillars were this idea that you're going to talk about faith and family and fitness. You were going to pick like these big, distinct topics that weren't really related to each other, but that made you you. I'm not a fan of that. I think that that actually goes against the idea of niche. And like I said earlier, then you end up with 25% of your followers who care about your faith and your posts about scripture, and 25% of your followers who care about your posts about fitness. And those two people don't overlap. They don't care about the other post. So when you post about one thing, a quarter of your audience has zero interest. They do not care. So I'm not a big fan of the old school content pillars. Over time, content pillars, the definition of it has kind of evolved to just mean different subcategories or different reoccurring templates or styles of posts that you could make over and over again. And I'm more in agreement with that sort of strategy. But the way that I like to think about it, the analogy that I like to use is that it's like an umbrella. So every single post that we make on our feed, the carousels, the reels, the photos, every post that we make should fall under the umbrella of our niche. It should in some way relate to that target demographic that we're trying to reach. And it should in some way relate to the topic that we're posting about. But just like an umbrella, when you open up the umbrella, there's like those different little arms that stick out that actually hold up the umbrella, right? Some umbrellas have 4, some umbrellas have like 18. So there's not like a strict number of content pillars or umbrella arms that you need to have, but basically every single one of your posts relates back to your niche. And then when it comes to actually coming up with what those posts are going to be about, I often find that solving problems, addressing common questions, telling stories that relate to your niche, talking about the common pain points or struggles or, you know, the relatable moments that all relate to the niche. That's really what all of your posts should be about.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I like your strategy because I feel like the thing I think people want to talk about the faith, family, because they kind of get bored talking about the same thing. And I think that's why they kind of want to talk about other things. So I want to ask you about that. And then I have another question about necessarily like views and followers. But first, what's your thought about, because I feel like when you go niche, the creator can feel like they're stuck in a box just talking about the same thing. And I understand this comes from YouTube because I can just talk about money all day and it's going to do well. I talk about I'm going on vacation, no one cares. So I just kind of stay in my lane because I know it works. But for Instagram, what is your thoughts about the creator that doesn't want to get bored and still wants to enjoy what they do?
Yeah, super common. What I would say is 3 things. Number 1, when you're picking your niche to start out, pick something that you can't shut up about. Pick something that you could talk about day after day and you're obsessed with and that you're excited to talk about day after day. And I think that sometimes people try to find the latest get rich quick scheme or the latest, you know, market opportunity, and that's what they niche down into, but it's not something that they truly care about. And so after a few weeks or a few months, you don't really want to talk about it anymore. You're kind of over it. So that's the first thing, is pick something that you truly are obsessed with, that you truly love to talk about, and then you'll be excited to talk about it every day. Number 2, there are creative ways that you can take things that aren't directly niche related and then relate them back to your niche. I like to call this strategy taking a nap. And NAP is a acronym that stands for niche adjacent posts. So you just gave that example of talking about like money and wealth and mindset and that sort of thing. But then you talk about a vacation, you post about a vacation and no one cares. But there might be a creative way where we can talk about how investing or how money or how finances relate to the vacation and allow you to take the vacation, and how you used points to travel or whatever. I think that there are creative ways that we can relate it back. For myself, one thing that I love that my audience hates is snowboarding. Like, I love snowboarding. I moved to the mountains so that I could snowboard every day in the winter. But like 99% of my audience has no flipping clue. I think like I once polled my audience and like 70% of them have never skied or snowboarded in their life. I think like 40% of my followers have never even seen snow, right? So they don't care. But there are ways that I can relate my journey on Instagram and building a business on Instagram to snowboarding. I can talk about how building a business on Instagram can be on autopilot, so it allows me to snowboard more. I can talk about the opportunities. I can talk about the similarities, right? So there's ways that you can relate these non-niche things, these things that are adjacent to your niche, back to your niche. That's the second thing. And then the third thing that I would say is your Instagram stories exist to let your freak flag fly. Your Instagram stories are for anything and everything. Your Instagram stories are not supposed to be niche related. Your Instagram stories are supposed to be about your life. So yesterday on my Instagram stories, I talked about going for a bike ride with my wife. I posted a photo of some cows that we saw. I posted about us going to the local art festival. I posted about people leaving like mess on the table at the coffee shop. Like, I posted about all these things that have zero to do with Instagram, but they have to do with me. And so my followers, and that's who is viewing stories, is the people who have already followed you. They've already decided, I'm going to be here. Well, then they're watching your stories to get to know you a little bit better, to get to learn about what makes you you. And so you can use your stories as that sort of creative outlet, the space where you can be yourself and talk about all your interests and passions and hobbies, because that's exactly what they were designed for.
Yeah, I love that. And that literally just solves the problem right there. Your stories, you can talk about whatever you want. You just, and your content, like your reels and your posts, that stays in lane with what you're actually trying to promote. Now, I think this is another thing. When you say niche down, sometimes when you niche down, you don't have a huge audience anymore. And people love the follower count, the views. So like, how do you know you're even doing okay if you're not getting a lot of views and a lot of followers?
What I would say to that person is, are you trying to build a business or are you trying to become an influencer? Because if you're trying to build a business, if you're trying to make money online, You don't need 100,000 followers. You need 1,000 true fans. I interviewed a woman on my podcast earlier this year who consistently does 6-figure launches with less than 1,000 followers because her followers, they know her, they trust her, and they are perfectly aligned. And so I think what's really cool is when you niche down, super, super niche down, that audience, you know exactly who they are. You know exactly their pain points. You know exactly their struggles. And you are specifically qualified to help them. I'll give you an example that like this really makes sense to a lot of people. How many Fortune 500 CEOs are there in the world? There's about 500, right? Because there's Fortune 500 companies, there's about 500 Fortune 500 CEOs. Well, if you created a product that specifically solved a major life problem for a Fortune 500 CEO, well, then the maximum number of followers you could have is 500 followers. But I don't think I have to spell this out. I think everyone listening will understand that the income potential, if you had 500 Fortune 500 or even just 100 Fortune 500 CEOs as your followers, think about how much money you could make. Think about the income potential. Think about what you could sell or what you could create and what you could charge to these people. And so I think that, yes, niching down, it might put a lower ceiling on your audience potential or how many followers you could have.
Yeah.
But I think actually having a low following is a superpower because you know that audience so much better. You can solve their problems so much more efficiently and serve them so much better. And all of that ultimately leads to a higher income potential.
Yeah, I love that so much. That's so good. And now my question is to, okay, now we're niche down. We're not necessarily caring about the numbers, but we do have to get our content found by the right people. So what do you recommend someone does? Like, are you saying reels, carousels? Like what kind of mix or strategy can you give to someone that's saying, okay, I'm not focused so much on the followers, but I just want a good strategy that I can focus on and to get more clients, things like that.
Yeah. I think a healthy Instagram strategy involves a little bit of everything. It's not all about reels 100%. It's not all about carousels, all about stories. There's a healthy mix and balance of all of those things. And even if one of those things is working really well for you, you are still experimenting with other kinds of posts, other styles, other trends, other all of these things to just stay adaptable because things do change on social media. And the worst thing that could happen is you go all in on one kind of post, let's say one specific style of reels, and then audience preferences change, the algorithm shift, and all of a sudden you're left in the dust because you're just doing that one thing.
Yeah.
But with that being said, the average is that reels will reach the most non-followers. So if you want to grow, obviously we have to reach those non-followers, and reels are the best way on average to do that. Now, there's a little bit of an advanced setting called trial reels. And this is a kind of reel that only reaches non-followers. And so it's a way that you can basically tell Instagram, do not show this post to my followers, just show it to new people. We can get more into the strategies for trial reels and the real benefits of them if you want to, but essentially reels, period, are the best way to reach new people. If you are really trying to grow, you're really trying to get in front of the right audience, then what I would focus on, whether you're posting reels or carousels, photos, whatever, is share-worthy content. Share-worthy content is the content that is worthy of being sent from one person to another. It's the kind of stuff that friends are sending to each other all day long. And the reason for that, the reason for wanting to create this style of content is that it doesn't rely on the algorithm. Most of the time, what we do is we post and then we cross our fingers and we hope that the algorithm figures out like who should see this post and it pushes it out to the right people. A lot of us are really frustrated and confused by the algorithm. So instead, don't rely on the algorithm, rely on the audience by creating the kinds of posts that one person is going to send to the other. Then it's not person A guessing that person B would be interested. Person A has a close relationship with person B, and they know that person B is going to love this post. They're going to really want to see it. And so they send it to them. And then that's how your posts get more views. That's how your posts go viral. That's how you attract like that real targeted audience. So it's not just a bunch of random people that the algorithm thinks might be interested. It is a bunch of real people who are actually interested because their friends knew that they would be and sent them your posts.
That's so good. Now, but the question is, how do I find share-worthy content? How do I create that? Like, I think one way is obviously if you want to share something with someone, you ask, why am I sharing this? So that's probably one, but do you have any other ones?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love that. That's absolutely like, that's the foundation. And I think that's the foundation for all good content on social and creating posts that do well is just being a conscious consumer. Like, why did this grab my attention? Why did this stop my scroll? Why was I
Yeah.
interested in this? And if you get in the habit of doing that, you're going to discover good posts a lot quicker, and you're going to be able to create new ideas and fresh takes a lot faster. And a tip that I like to give, kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier regarding looking for inspiration,
Yeah.
is the best place to get inspiration is outside of your niche. If you're looking at other people who
That's
do
so true.
exactly what you do, it's just going to kind of be like an echo chamber, and you're going to end up as like the cheap knockoff, the second place. And so instead, look outside of your industry. Like, all of my worst posts that feel the least authentically me are posts that were inspired by other Instagram coaches. On the other hand, all of my best posts that go viral and that are the most creative and that have comments saying, "Oh my gosh, this is my favorite reel ever," those were inspired by fitness creators or by real estate agents or by snowboarders, whatever, like just people who don't do what I do, but I'm able to take inspiration from their really good content. So I think that that's a super smart way to get started. But in terms of share-worthy content, there's really 5 different kinds of share-worthy content, or 5 kinds of content that we see as most share-worthy. And they are, number one, motivational. So these are like the inspirational quotes, the Bible verses, the faith. This is the basically anything that motivates you and relates to your niche. So that's the first
Yeah.
one. The second one is community posts. So these are posts that either they involve the community by like asking for their feedback, or they involve the community by saying, "Hey, I'm trying to raise money for this thing. I'm trying to raise awareness for this cause or this important message," right? It's like, again, it's still niche related, but it's for a bigger purpose. Or community posts are also interacting with the community. So showing how you are responding to a comment, or posting a screenshot of a DM conversation, like literally
Oh
showing your
yeah.
engagement with the community. That's number 2. Number 3 is the most common, and it's the relatable posts. Oftentimes, this takes the form of like memes or funny posts or trends where it's relatable humor. I'm talking about a problem that I have that everyone in my audience has as well. Those sort of relatable posts are super share worthy. Number 4 is controversial posts. And again, it's got to relate to your niche. So I'm not saying just talk about anything
Yeah.
random controversial you want to talk about. I'm also not encouraging anyone to just fly off the handlebars and, try to get canceled or whatever. I'm encouraging them to talk about the things that relate to their niche, that might be the quote unquote unpopular opinion, or the thing that everyone's been thinking, but no one's been willing to say.
Yeah.
Those sorts of posts are very share worthy. And then finally, last but not least, share worthy posts are timely. So maybe timely
Oh
as
yeah.
in it's a trend that's happening right now, not a trend that was happening 3 weeks ago, or it's timely because it's related to pop culture. Like,
Yeah.
what major award show just took place? What happened at the Super Bowl halftime show? Like, what is pop culture paying attention to in this moment? Not what were they paying attention to 3 weeks ago? And then the final example of timely content is the literal news or headlines, whether you are the one breaking the news or you're commentating, adding your own 2 cents about whatever is happening in the news that relates to your niche. That is also very share worthy.
All right, that's so good. I feel like that's where you don't have to really rely on the algorithm. You rely on people. Which the algorithm is it people anyway? They say it's people anyway, but
It's people. It's people. That's one of the things that I wish, it's so commonly misunderstood, and I wish I could get it through to everyone listening, is stop caring about the algorithm, start caring about the audience, because it is the audience that dictates
yeah,
the algorithm. If it was just like Mark Zuckerberg and his software engineer buddies who were like, "Hey, let's tweak these things on the algorithm," we would all hate Instagram. We would all hate consuming content on YouTube and on TikTok and on
yeah,
Instagram. It would suck because we would constantly be shown posts and things that we're not interested in or entertaining, but just posts that the algorithm thought we wanted to see. But as frustrated as we might be as creators with the algorithm, we are all more addicted to our phones than ever before. We're all spending more time on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube than ever before. And that's because the algorithms are actually really good at showing us what they want to see, or what we want to see. And the way that they have gotten so good at showing us what we want to see is because they adapt to what we want. They adapt to
yeah.
what we want. They're constantly adapting, not on their own decisions, but just based off of what us as audience members are interested in.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. And so, all right. So one of the things that I find myself, and I know a lot of people struggle with, is like we're entrepreneurs, so we're doing everything. How do we find the time to do this and create and be consistent? Because I can be on Instagram scrolling for hours and
Yeah.
have absolutely nothing done. So
Yeah.
what's your advice to people who want to like use this for a business, but actually create a system that works for them and not against them?
Yeah, I think that there are two different kinds of content creators, or two different kinds of, I should say, business owners who have to create content. And that's how I view myself. I view myself as an entrepreneur or business owner first and foremost, content creator second. But I'm someone who enjoys creating content. And
Yeah.
so what I've done in my business is I've outsourced and delegated pretty much every other area of the business so that I don't have to worry about
Oh yeah.
payroll. I don't have to worry about customer service. I don't have to worry about project management. I can worry about creating content, and everyone else on the team can do everything else. But I know there are other entrepreneurs and business owners who hate creating content, but they still recognize that it's necessary for their business.
Yeah.
And so they go all in on the funnels, or they go all in on their email marketing, or they go all in on whatever. And then they delegate not necessarily the entire content creation,
Right.
but they might delegate editing and script writing and planning and revising and all of it, except for they just show up for a 3-hour window once every other week, and they have their team say, okay, here's your 17 videos you're shooting today, sit in this chair and get it done. So there are either way, I think that both ways can be successful, but at the end of the day, you got to create the content, right? Someone, either you or someone on your team, the content has to be created. It's got to be put out there. What works for me in terms of systems is I try to do as little scrolling as I possibly can. I try to do
Really?
as little consuming as I possibly can. And I've actually outsourced part of that because, like we talked about earlier, it is important to get inspiration from others. And so I actually have a dedicated team member now who her job is basically to scroll on social media and get ideas for me. So all day, all week, all day long, she's sending me posts, she's sending me creative trends, she's sending me, oh, I've noticed this going on in the market, and she's letting me know about those things. And then I dedicate usually, let's say, about an hour or two a week to creating content. And when
Wow.
I'm doing that, I start with the low effort content first. I think
That's good.
oftentimes we get these like really big ideas and we try to see it from start to finish, from idea through execution to completion, but it's a big idea. And so it's going to take a few hours. Don't do that. If you only have an hour a week, well, then spend 80% of that hour on low effort content so that you get to the end of that hour and you have 7 posts done. They might be low effort, simple posts, but at least you have 7 posts done.
Yeah.
And then if you have extra time, you can spend that remaining 20% on that high effort post that might end up taking you 3 weeks, but at least you have 7 posts a week for those 3 weeks instead of spending 7 hours on just this one single post that you think is going to be, the viral sensational post, which it never actually is. Spoiler
Yeah.
alert. But I think that starting with that low effort content is a way to just allow yourself to actually have something done and have something to show for your time creating.
Yeah, and you created something for us entrepreneurs too, right? Can you talk more about that to kind of help us learn how to do this and stay consistent?
Yeah, so we created back in 2020 what's called the Insta Club Hub, and it is now become the number one Instagram resource training community in the world. And basically, my whole goal is trying to give people the most efficient strategies possible so that they can see results in the least amount of time possible. Like, even if you only have 15 minutes per week, you're still able to get the most out of Instagram. You're still able to see results. And we do that by not focusing on all of the fluff, which is in reality 99% of what you see from social media experts, myself included. 99% of what you see on YouTube and Instagram and podcasts is fluff, stuff that's going to make a little difference. It might make a 1 or 2% difference, but it's not the strategies that are proven to work. It's not the meat and bones of growing on Instagram. And so we focus on those strategies that are proven to work. And that's why we actually just completed a study where last year, our average engaged student, so not just someone who signed up, but someone who
Right.
actually, they implemented, they showed
Yeah.
up to our trainings. They grew by 15,947 followers on average over the
This
course
is
of the last year.
average. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah.
That's insane. And I saw that you can start for $7 just starting, right?
Yeah, it's a $7 2-week trial. So, just as an opportunity for people to kind of poke their head
Yeah.
in and check things out a little bit. There are some things that aren't included in that trial. Like we give all of our members a 30-day custom content calendar. So we tell them, personalized for them, here's what you're going to post for the next 30 days. And that's every single month they get that. The people on the trial don't get that, but the trial is still a great opportunity to poke around the club and just see what it's like.
Yeah, I love that so much. Okay. So I did at the beginning of the video, I said that you would roast my channel. And I just want you guys to get an idea when he's roasting it, he's not gonna go full out audit, but um I want you to learn what he's saying for your own channel as well too. And I want you guys to definitely check out Insta Club Hub. Is that it's Insta Club Hub shop, right?
Insta Club Hub. Yep, you said it right. Some people
Okay, yeah.
switch
So I
hub
want
and club, Insta Hub Club, but it's Insta Club Hub. You said it right.
I love it. So I want to put it in the description below because if you want results, you always say, you guys, follow someone who's doing what you want to do. If he can do this and he has students, his average students is like 15,000, did you say, by growing?
Yeah,
That's
almost
what you want to be.
16,000.
Oh, it's insane. Okay, so I'm gonna give you sharing capability and
Sweet.
I'm gonna show you I'm gonna just put it in the chat.
I got it.
Oh, you got it? Okay.
Yeah. Whitney
And
Bonds 101, right?
yep. And just so you
Okay.
guys know, so I was posting consistently until I just didn't know what I was doing and I stopped. But
I
it's just
got you.
good to kind of know what I can improve on. So there you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look. So having your first and last name as your username, that is totally fine. Wouldn't change a thing there, especially because this is a personal brand, right? This is about you. So we would want to see your name there. This profile picture is solid. I think I would actually zoom it in a little bit more
Yeah,
on your face, right? Like
totally agree.
really crop it in here so that we just see like mid chest to the top of your head. So it's super tight.
Yeah.
But what I like about it is it's a great photo. It's clearly professional. You're on a solid color background. You pop off the page. So it's solid, pretty good there. So it's solid, pretty good there. This line right here is the #1 most common mistake that people make in their bio. This is called your Instagram name, this line right here. And what most people do on this line, because it just says name when you're setting up your profile,
Yeah.
is they just write their name. But this line can be up to 56 characters long, and everything that you put on this line is 100% searchable. So
Oh
what
wow.
we
Then no
need to
one's
put
gonna
on this line is
uh-huh.
a keyword, right? Because right now, the only way people can find you is if they are specifically searching Whitney Bonds.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they will not discover this profile, at least not through search. So what we need to put here is like business consultant or something like that, some sort of general term that you got to kind of walk this line between being vague or general enough that it's actually being searched for, right? Like people
Yeah.
are actually searching business consultant, but also you want to be specific enough that you would show up. So I think business consultant might be a little bit too vague, but you get the gist, right? You can get a
Yeah.
little bit more specific there. You don't want to put like business bestie because no one's searching for a business bestie, right? But we laugh. There are people who put things like that and they're not searchable. So we got to kind of
Yeah.
walk this line between what is searchable, but what is still not going to be, so specific or so vague. Okay.
Yeah.
Then this right here is called your threads badge. And before I tell you why we're going to take that out, which spoiler alert, we're going to take that out. The reason for that is that your bio can only show 4 lines. So if you write
Oh.
more than 4 lines in your bio, Instagram will cut off the rest and it will say ... more, which obviously ain't nobody going to take the time to click the ... more. Like if you write 17 lines in your bio, they're not going to click it, right? They're just going to skim it and scroll. So
Right.
this takes up one of those 4, and this takes up one of those 4.
Oh
This
yeah.
threads badge is a button that takes people to threads. It takes them off of Instagram and it takes them to threads. So we want to eliminate that, right? Because
Yeah.
that would be like if we were at a restaurant and like the first thing on the menu was go to a different restaurant. We don't want that. So we want to take out our
I
threads
love this.
badge. And we want to take out this, which is known as your category, your profile category, because it just doesn't add anything, right?
Yeah.
Especially if we end up adding like business consultant up to this line, well, then we don't need to have it twice. We don't need to
Yeah.
say, hi, I'm Whitney Bonds. I'm a business consultant and I'm a business consultant. We don't need to have it twice. So we've
Yeah.
taken out those 2. And now we've freed up 2 additional lines to actually write in our bio. Right now, your bio says tried and true methods to help you build a business to create a life you love. When I read that, I feel like it just lacks specificity, right?
Yeah.
Because I see the word you and I'm like, who is you? Is it me? Is it someone else? I don't know if you're actually talking to me. And
Right.
so I would rather have you spell out the specific demographics
Right.
of who you can help there. And then instead of saying live the life you love, which is kind of a cliche and it's the
Yeah.
positive, I would rather hear the specific negative that you help me avoid. So
I
I
like
help
that.
you create a business that you don't need a vacation from, or I help you save over $100,000 a year, or whatever that is, right? That
Right.
specific. I know I just listed two positive things, but either the two
We get it. Yeah.
specific positives or a negative you help me avoid, right? Like
Yeah.
I help you build a business without having to work 80 hours a week. That would be more specific there. That's the first line. And I love that you do have that in your first line because that's what I recommend for your first line, some sort of niche statement. I just think
Okay.
yours could be a little bit more specific.
Agreed.
Second line and or third line is something that's currently missing from your bio. And I would recommend have it be some sort of credibility for yourself.
Right.
So it doesn't
Right.
have to be like, here's my certification, but just here's my experience. Here's my background. Here's why you should trust me compared to anyone else who is doing something similar. Right.
Yeah.
And then finally, last but not least, is a call to action, which you have done. And I love a free call to action. I think sometimes people try to like make a sale from their bio. That's tough to do, right? That's like proposing on the first date. I very much prefer what you've done, which is a call to action that's like, here's a free guide, here's a free newsletter, here's a free solution to your problem. And I think that that's great. So overall, your bio is definitely on the right track. I would just make those few minor adjustments, a little bit more specific in a few places, and definitely add to that Instagram name line, and you should be set up for success.
I love that. This was so helpful. And one more question. I have this question. So if I already have friends on my account and I want to be more specific to business, do I
Mhm.
start a new account or do I go ahead and what do I do?
Yeah, I think it really depends on if you have good friends or not. I think that if you have good, true friends who are going to hype up and support your business posts, then transition your existing account to a business account. I have quite a few friends who are former college football players and they're now becoming like private coaches. And it's been really cool to see how a lot of them have launched their new business, their new private coaching business on their existing Instagram, and everyone hypes it up. They're fired up, they're liking it, they're sharing it, they're supporting. But some of us have friends who are a little jealous, or friends who are from
Mhm.
high school and they don't really
Yeah.
support this new business venture. And so those people, they're going to still follow you, but they're going to be what's called like a lurker. They're going to just kind of
Yeah.
lurk in the shadows and they're going to watch, but they're not going to engage. If your followers are a bunch of those people, start a new account. But for most people, it's probably best to bet on your friends being good friends and just continue, at least for the time being, on your existing profile.
Yeah. Okay. This was so helpful. I think you could answer everything here. So can you just tell us
Awesome.
how can we learn more about you? I'm going to put your links in the description below because I want everyone to be a part of. If you want to join Instagram, then you have to be a part of your community. I'm joining myself.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Whitney, you're awesome. The best place to get connected with me is on Instagram, of course, Brock11 Johnson. I'm super active in my DMs. I do post 3 or 4 feed posts a day right now. So there's plenty of ideas and inspiration and
Wow, a
post ideas and
day.
templates and strategies that you can get for free just from following me. But also, like, if you enjoyed today's episode, I love this. It's so helpful. When I get a message that was like, hey, I found you from Whitney's podcast.
Oh,
Hey, I
yeah.
found you from Whitney's YouTube. Like that, I flip in love. And so if anyone's listening today and they want to send me that sort of message, or if they want to help Whitney and I both out by taking a screenshot and posting this episode on their Instagram stories and then tagging us, that's like ultimate brownie points. But like I said,
Now
super
reshare
active in
it.
the DMs. And so if
Yeah.
anyone shoots me a message, I will likely reply.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much. And then you guys, everyone, thank you for watching. If you have any questions or comments, put in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day. And if you're still here watching this video, comment below. Instagram rocks. All right. See you guys.